What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We're here for Predict Shark episode 2. We're going over all of the interesting things happening in prediction markets. Joined here by the great Tyrael.
What up, everybody? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. A lot of interesting stuff. We got some new debate markets. We got the VP debate coming up.
Yeah, it has been a eventful news week as usual. I feel like 2024 has just been like twist and turn after twist and turn, and it has continued to be that way this week. The whole Trump Zelensky meeting. Now there's a little bit of additional grumblings about another VP pick. Presidential debate. Then we've got the Eric Adams charges that came up. Got this whole Kamala unrealized capital gains market drama that's happened. So lots of spice, baby.
Awesome. Let's dive right into it. So we'll talk just a couple different interesting markets, new things hopping up. Then we'll get into the meat of it, the VP debates. Let's start off with your screen. Will Harris publicly support tax on unrealized gain? So we covered this on show number 1, saying that it was trending really high up in like the 65, 70 range. We said we liked the no here because we felt like it would just be wild for Kamala to come out and say this. So why don't you go into the details here?
Yeah. So this was a super interesting one. A lot of that volume upwards was driven by a single user. The Polymarket, one of the Polymarket goats, 50 pence, accumulated 120,000 shares over the past week. So some pretty crazy numbers. He was going off of his argument of why this was going to resolve yes is because Kamala supports a minimum tax for billionaires. And the minimum tax for billionaires is kind of like a dog whistle or a way to say we are going to tax unrealized capital gains without directly saying it. So if you look at the 2023 House bill that was put forward, the law states, it's called the Billionaire Minimum Tax Act. And the law states that regardless of what deductions or whatever billionaires take, they have to pay, I think it's 25%, and that includes unrealized capital gains. That bill failed in 2020. This year, going into 2025, the U.S. Treasury also put out a definition of what is the billionaires minimum tax, and it includes the definition of unrealized capital gains. So 50 pence, he may have thought he had a advantage here, that people didn't realize that that's what the billionaire minimum tax meant, bought up a ton of shares to the tune of over 100,000. And now we're in this situation where she didn't explicitly say that she's going to do an unrealized capital gains tax, but she kind of said it through the verbiage that she used with this billionaire minimum tax. So somebody proposed yes on this market yesterday. It was instantly disputed. Lots of argument was going back and forth in the Polymarket Discord on this one. And then Polymarket came out with a clarification last night that per the rules, this will only resolve yes if Harris explicitly states her support of having a tax on unrealized capital gains. And what she said previously will not suffice. So now we're in this situation where this is again in limbo. The price is now essentially flipped. Yesterday, you could have bought this no in the 30s. Would have been a nice little 2xer from where we talked about it earlier this week on stream. But I still don't see any world where Harris comes out and explicitly says she's going to tax unrealized capital gains. It's just a political nightmare. And the reality is the reason why she included it in her policy documents, she released an 80-page PDF on, what was that, Monday or Tuesday, that detailed all of her economic policy proposals. And this was in there, but the reason why they use the buzzwords rather than explicitly stating it is because what business person is going to want to vote for you, or large investor is going to want to vote for you if you're taxing unrealized capital gains. And those are a lot of her donors and major supporters at the top end. So it's kind of something to put in there to placate the base, but not really ever do anything about it. So I still think this will go no, but yeah, very interesting short-term opportunity if you did buy that when we were talking about it on stream on Tuesday.
Yeah, if you bought it on Tuesday, would you take the profits here, or would you ride it all the way through?
I mean, I'd probably just take it and put my capital into something else, because the resolution time, right? Like, you're looking all the way to November 4th to get, the extra 25, 30%. You could probably just take profits and move on to something else. You're already up on a 2x right here. I think there's other opportunities that you can get some better returns on. So if you made this play, congratulations on the 2x, gents.
Hell yeah. Mango Lassie, big poly market trader in the chat, says, hello, lovely people. What's up? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so I'm with you on that. I liked the no a lot there on Tuesday. I think it just made sense. And yeah, I mean, the tricky thing with these, I get 50 Pence's line of reasoning, but I learned early on Polymarket that they generally don't enable kind of like gotchas. You know what I mean? Like they lean towards like the market being true to kind of explicitly what it was saying, which is, once again, like, will Harris publicly support a tax on unrealized gains? Meaning like saying like, I think we should tax unrealized gains. Kind of having that as like a one of many things dumped in a specific thing, wrapped in a couple things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't think they're very often. It's not going to work out in your mind. One of the big gotchas I try to do is when I, found out that the Federal Reserve doesn't technically increase their interest rates until the day after they meet.
Yeah.
And the poly market like rules, like it was on the meeting itself. And I'm like, oh, I got a big like technicality gotcha. Well, newsflash, no, it wasn't a gotcha. They raised on the 18th. Despite them officially making the change on the 19th, the market still resolved to the yes. So generally avoid those. So that was a nice little 2x gifted by one of the best traders out there. But yeah, I would take my 2x here and run. What else you got that's interesting?
Yeah. So another one that I've got my eye on this week is the Trump versus Harris polling margin next Friday. So the resolution source for this is RCP polling data, which basically just tracks the average of all of the major pollsters. All right, I'll consent today. So you can see here, they're taking, like Quinnipiac, CNN, Rasmussen, Ipsos, et cetera, and this gets tracked over time throughout the election. And you can see here, Harris has been floating to 1.9, 2.2, 2.12. This week, a lot of bullish polling data has actually come out for Trump that a lot of the battleground states are actually far tighter than we thought, along with some very bullish national polls. Notably, the New York Times poll came out as a straight 50-50 tie. There's another very large poll here, the New York Quinnipiac, that came out as a straight tie. So those were big moves up for Trump over the past 1 to 2 weeks. And that still hasn't been reflected in the RCP polling data because it's brand new, right? So I think this is kind of interesting that it could potentially tighten here over the next week. The resolution date for this is next Friday. Kind of interesting to look at taking potentially some shares out in the 1.5 to 1.9 band, as well as the 2 to 2.4 band. You can get that for around 75 cents. Together is a little hedged. bet. Nice little 25% on up if you do the 2. This is one to keep an eye out on, in my opinion. Should see some additional data coming in bullish Trump over the next week as well. The only real big other news event we have going on is the VP debate next week. That'll kind of suck some of the air out of the room for a few days. So keep an eye out on this one. I think this is an interesting one.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And yeah, it does seem that that's the way the trend's heading. Although I do think it's interesting that Kamala's still holding up pretty well on the just general election on Polymarket at 51. But also I don't fully expect that to like adjust to small swings in polling. Maybe more so big swings.
Yeah, absolutely. And this tightened up a bit this week. You know, Trump was sitting in the 47, 48 at the start of this week. And, you know, you're kind of seeing it trend upwards towards 49. You know, I think going into the actual election date, this is going to be an absolute toss up. So, you know, very close to fairly valued here. People, I see people like freaking out like on both sides, like when one takes the lead over the other, you know, on Twitter. And it's just like, guys, like just relax. Like a 1 point lead means absolutely nothing in this race. This is a total toss up. So yeah, I think this will continue to tighten. The real key is the battleground states, right? You know, we're talking North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada. And that's the polling data that's going to affect these averages the most. So just keep an eye on that over the next week on that RCP market.
Sweet. You got any other interesting new markets to share?
Yeah, I mean, these VP debate markets I think are pretty interesting.
Yeah, let's jump into those. I love these markets. That's your bread and butter, and those are a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we've got Tim Walz and JD Vance mentions, and then we've got who will speak more at the VP debate is an interesting one to keep an eye on. This price is just nuts on the handshake. This is opening up at 92% is pretty wild. And this who will win the VP debate opening up at 76 is quite a number. So I really wouldn't participate in those ones because I think, you know, Walz will be declared the winner likely. This will likely happen, but just not really worth chasing at these odds levels. Who will speak more at the VP debate? Slightly in favor of Vance. This is also probably likely to go Vance's way. Order book, you can get some, you know, bids in here in the high 50s, low 60s. Interesting one to take a look at going into the debate day. Pretty good returns there. And then the favorites here, I see some more interesting opportunities on the Vance market than I do the Walz market. The Vance market, some interesting ones to look at here that have some pretty nice returns. Usha, so Usha Vance, that's his wife. He will often, you know, say things like the best thing I ever did was, you know, married my wife Usha, or talk about how Usha supported him. Usha is an Indian American, makes him seem a little bit less, you know, Vance doesn't have the greatest public perception, makes him seem a little bit more relatable and friendly to immigration and things like that. So I like the odds of him mentioning Usha here. I think that's a interesting pickup. There's also lots of just, you know, really solid picks here on this market, right? Also, Fired, I think, is an interesting one. He often talks about the American people need to get out on November 4th and fire Kamala Harris. That's a big one that he likes to say. Good returns on this one right now as well. But some other just, you know, really good pickups on this one that have solid returns, you know, China, fentanyl, illegal alien, and, you know, abortion, unfortunately, has been driven up quite a bit in price, but that'll absolutely be talked about. I wouldn't touch
again.
Tuesday, October 1st. Maybe we can do a little live stream for it or something, but yeah, this is an interesting one. Take a hard look at Usha. When we look at Tim Walz market, Some of the ones that stand out to me right away are Yale. So a big point of contrast that Walls has done with JD Vance is say, hey, I'm a normal average guy. I work on trucks. I'm from Minnesota.
Yeah.
I'm a teacher. I coach football. And this guy's a venture capitalist that went
Hold
to
on, let me
Yale.
call my guy in Spain. Yeah, load up the order book on Yale. Yes, please. Yep, as many as you can get, up to 35. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, Yale, I think, is a great pickup. I don't know. It feels pretty undervalued to me here. Venture capitalist is another one that, I think is a good upside pick. Feels a little bit undervalued to me here.
Once again, trying to not like attack, but trying to frame Vance as like an elitist, essentially.
Exactly.
And not like a
The
man of the people.
Exactly. And
What do you
it's
think about
all
him saying
about
football.
Yeah, so football, I like football.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna he could say it in a couple ways. I
was a football coach.
I was a football coach, or I spent 20 years coaching football, and let me tell you, when somebody draws up a playbook, they intend to use it. That's a
Project
verbatim. Yeah, that's a verbatim Tim Walls line, and he will hit on project. It's good, and he will hit on Project 2025 and probably recite some of his go-to lines. So I think football's a good one. Here's the thing where you've got
Haitian. What about Haitian?
I like it. I like Haitian too, because I think
there's some good pricing on these debate markets. There's
yeah,
definitely some juicy yeses.
Yeah, because we're early, you know what I mean? Like there's still not a lot of liquidity in here. 137K, and we've got like 4 days to go. So like there's some time here to play the Yeah, it'll ramp up, but there's some time here to play the order book. And also, like, a lot of people don't have a lot of the same data available for like a Walls or a Vance market as they do for a Trump or a Harris market. So, the market should be priced a little bit more inefficiently. So you'll get some more interesting opportunities. A couple of traps that you can fall into here are coach and teacher. Okay? Because
was coach a no on his last thing that he market for him, right?
Yes. So coaching does not count. Coached does not count. Coach counts. So be careful. If he says I coached football, or I was coaching football, you're fucked. If he says I was a football coach, you're good. For me, not worth these odds, dude. You could fall into a trap here. Teacher, especially, if he says teaching, you're screwed, right? If he says my wife was a teacher, you're good. I was a teacher, you're good. Again, I think these are a little riskier than people think inherently at these prices. I think people just, not as familiar.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, price gouging with Kamala, and she said price gauging, with these things that people aren't going to say over and over and over and over and over again. It could be a little risky. What's up, Merzda? Merzda, big fan. Says the joyful scandal all over again.
Dude.
LOL.
Dude, that was brutal. And I was on Joy. I had the yes on Joy there. So I had to learn that hard lesson on Joy versus Joyful. But yeah, just be aware of that one. Those are some traps to fall into. Some higher picks that are probably good ones. Obamacare, Affordable Care Act. He'll talk about that. He's going to say abortion. It's just way too highly priced here for me to really chase it. Yeah, man. So some interesting opportunities on this Walls mentioned market and the Vance mentioned markets. I think there's, again, as we were saying, some pricing inefficiencies that exist here. And, you've got 4 days to accumulate. So get after it, boys.
So I got an interesting one here to talk to you about regarding the VP debate. So, how many viewers will the VP debate get? And Moonbird Oddity asks, any skin left on Eric Adams out as mayor before 2025? You want to just quickly talk about that before?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. The odds when I was looking at it cooked. I mean, it's up in like the 70s now. So you got to kind of be a little bit more careful chasing things when they're
Yeah.
starting to go up until the 70s. If you were asking me this on Tuesday, I would have said, yeah, like take a nibble, right? But after this big run up, it's a little more it's a little more risky. He probably will get kicked out at some point.
But
The
it could be
question is
January, it could be February, it could be
exactly,
March.
exactly.
A lot
You're
of
on
these,
this
a
like
lot of these guys, like here's the thing: like if you have a scandal, right?
yeah,
Like a non-criminal scandal, like you slept with your fucking campaign manager or something, right?
gotta do some.
Yeah, those kinds of situations, right? You may be more willing to like step down or like not fight or resign or something like that, thinking that like I'll just go in like, hide out for a little bit and then come back, right? And still be able to like do things in politics or this or that, right? Versus
Yeah.
like Eric Adams, he's like toast if you get like
Yep.
he's going to jail for years, right? I think when you're in those situations, you're going to be much more willing to like fight it out. Like who was that senator? He didn't leave until he got like literally convicted, right?
Bobby Goldbars, dude.
Yeah, he didn't leave until he got convicted, right? Like he went through the
Yep.
whole court case as a senator.
Yeah, and I think that's
Yeah.
likely here. As you said, like his incentives aren't to just like peacefully leave and get out of Dodge, right? Like he's going to try to dig in. He said he's going to try to dig in.
Yeah.
And then like
I'd say he would dig in unless they like, got something over him that they can force his hand.
absolutely. And when you think about like how this market will play out, the longer that he holds on,
The
the
more it
price
fades.
just the
Yeah.
price just swings back the other way as we go towards, December 31st. And like you're just gonna be sweating a little bit more every day on that bet. Like, fuck, is this the day he's gonna
Yeah.
is he gonna
Get knocked
resign? Is
out.
this the day?
Like it's
Yeah.
probably honestly like a good trading market where like, you take profits here or you maybe nibble on the no side. And then like when it swings back down lower, maybe it becomes, but I could definitely see this market like ping ponging back and forth. But I mean, who knows? Any given day he can drop out, right? So it's
Yeah.
one of those markets where it can shoot to 100, yes, or slow bleed, all the way down.
Yeah.
I do like this. Like there's a lot of slow bleed markets out there that have like good money on it. Like I traded one. Will there be a bank failure by October 31st? Knock on wood, we're not there yet. But like you get in at like 30, now it's down at like 10. You know what I mean? And I can just take all that risk off the table if I want.
Yeah.
But dude, I thought this market right here was pretty interesting. How many viewers will the VP debate get? And here's my opinion, and then I'd love to hear yours. Okay.
Yeah.
I did some research, right? Like the first Trump Biden debate, right, was like 73 million views, right? It was very, very viewed. You also have to factor in during COVID, a lot of people were like at home, right? Like the kind of potential viewership potentially higher. A lot of people hated Trump. They still do though, right? Blah, 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 blah. The VP debates in 2020 had like 60, Pence and Harris had 57.9 million viewers. Second largest television audience of any VP debate.
Wow.
It was the only bigger one was in 2008 with Sarah Palin and Joe Biden. That was also a different time when much more people were watching like cable TV versus like just logging on to Twitter afterwards, right?
Right.
So it and then Kamala came out with Kamala and Trump came out this year. Their debate together, I think, was like 67 million, 67.1. So that's like roughly like a 10% drop from 2020, right? So if you apply like the 10% drop to 57.9, which is what Harris and Pence got in 2020, that would like put you in like the 50-55 range. So there's that. So like one strategy I was thinking is you could buy up 50 and above, right? That's like 47, 50, 60, right? So you're getting like a 60% return on that. That's not that bad. Because, and the other thing I'm wondering, right, is like is Waltz and Vance like potentially like a much more interesting debate that people want to tune into? Like sorry, I could give a less a shit in 2020 than listening to Harris and Pence.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. That was like
and
watching paint dry.
yeah, and I think I saw some clips or something like that. But I mean, yeah, watching paint dry, exactly. Versus like I feel like there's a lot of people in the Democratic Party that like Waltz a lot, and I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of people in the Trump camp that like Vance a lot, and then there's a lot of dislike on the other sides, right, against the opponent, right?
Yep.
Which kind of makes me wonder, like, hey, are a lot of people gonna like tune into this one? Like, this is one that's gonna be like interesting to them.
Yeah.
So that that's why like maybe just like slamming like the 50 on up is the safer bet. If you want to get super greedy, going for like 50-55 or 45-50.
Yeah, so I think you bring up some great points here. So one thing to note on this market is the resolution source is the Nielsen data, right? So like Nielsen data is tracking just ma and
TV.
pa in Minnesota on your TV, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the presidential debate this year for the first time was like streamed on Hulu. It was like streamed on, I think it was Disney Plus streamed it, dude. Like a lot of
There's a lot more people
access.
that maybe watched it, but only on
Exactly.
TV was there 57.9 or
E-
whatever the number was.
Exactly.
67.
So that maybe like artificially deflated the number a little bit when you're looking at the resolution source, right? I think all the factors that you talked about, these two are much more unknown quantities than Trump and Harris, coupled with the fact that there won't be the same stream availability for this debate as there was for the one that was hosted on ABC, right? Because ABC Disney owns ABC, they spread that across their different applications.
And
This is
one's
going to be
CNN.
hosted by CBS. CBS.
CBS. They don't have
Correct.
as big of a network. Interesting.
No. They have like Paramount Plus that they'll probably stream on, right? But it's not nearly as wide as what ABC and Disney have. So I think that inherently will give you like a little bit of a boost in these numbers. I think the fact that they're unknown quantities, and you are right, the Democrats love Walz. A lot of Republicans really like Vance. There's been a lot of controversy between them, so it could have a pretty good amount of viewership. So I think your idea here is fairly interesting on taking like 50 up. I don't think it's going to get anywhere near like 65 million.
Yeah.
So you maybe could even take like the 3 middle bands there and still make off like a bandit. You're looking at like 65 to 68 cents, so that's like another like 40% up on that. Interesting one to look at, but I think this is a great one to bring up. I don't think a lot of people really understand that Nielsen is the source here of resolution, right? And like streams won't count into that. It's kind of like an archaic way of
So like when we're streaming it on
it.
YouTube, it's not counting.
Doesn't count.
That's funny.
It'd be super interesting to see what the like true numbers were, like streaming inclusive, right? I would love to know that, because you got to think these things are like a global affair now, man. People all over the world are watching. So interesting one to keep an eye out on for sure.
Whereas it says Nielsen ratings include streaming numbers now since 2021.
Really? I'm pretty sure that if you look at the resolution source, it's household of 4 data.
So they may include it with some numbers, but like, this market specifically is going off of like the old numbers.
Yeah, it's I can't remember the size of the household, but it's like specifically like a certain household size, and then TV data.
Where does it say it?
Is this the winner or?
This was when.
Yeah.
Views.
Yeah.
Nielsen,
yeah, it's the specifically persons 2 plus. Yeah.
Well, then I got to go back and I got to like look at like, am I comparing like it to 2 plus data correctly?
Yeah, double check it. But I think you're onto an interesting line of thinking here.
Shit, man. I don't know. Two plus person data, dude. A lot of,
So the childless cat ladies don't count.
That's
The
not fair.
childless cat daddies, they don't count. That's bullshit, man.
Not fair.
I mean,
My
come
single
on,
brother
man.
playing video games in his apartment that's gonna tune in.
The Call of
See,
Duty
he's gonna
bros
tune
don't
in on
count.
YouTube. He's gonna tune in on YouTube. You know what I mean? Cord cutters, right?
Dude, that's so funny. Yeah. Let's do a little bit more research on this one. But I think you have a decent thesis on where you're at there.
Yeah. What about this market? Will Sam Altman take equity in OpenAI in 2024?
Yeah, this one's been in the news this week. They had a fairly was it a co-founder or somebody who's fairly high up that left?
Yeah, like 3 people left.
Yeah, pretty publicly. I saw Elon roasting Altman a little bit, saying in Rogan as well, kind of saying like, hey, he says he has these altruistic intentions when in reality he's trying to get rich. There's been a little bit of controversy here. I really don't know enough about the business to make a bold claim on this. Either way, what's your take on it?
I don't know, man. I think there's like 2 things you can look at. One is like this market resolution is like in the next 3 months. Now I do know that they're like actively raising right now, so it does make sense that they would wrap it into that raise, right? It would probably be like pretty weird to like do the raise and then be like, hey, also like the board's giving me equity. They'd probably do it together. So like, I guess if it does or doesn't happen, it happening in 2024 isn't crazy. But I mean, like, because of the controversy and the drama, like, does that slow down? Mirza says he's been pushing that research lab to be a for-profit company for years now. Yeah, exactly. And there's been pushback and stuff like that. But a lot of the people that were pushing back are all gone now. They've slowly like dropped out of the company over the years. I mean, I do think that it's like bad PR that he's lost this many executives, right? And then he's going in and doing like the fundraising, right?
Yeah.
So like, does he? Let me look at the like specific rules here, right? Take an equity, stock options count. Any other form of open interest count. Any pre-existing interest held through Y Combinator's investment fund or other indirect. My point being is that I feel like he has like a really bad PR thing on his hands, right? While they're trying to raise money. And like my question would be like, is there a way for him to like have a gotcha out here, right? And be like, we're switching it to a for-profit company because like we need to do X, Y, and Z to compete against all of the other for-profit companies, right? That are in doing the same stuff we're doing. Like we're trying to compete against Anthropic, and Anthropic is a for-profit company, right?
Yep.
So I do think that there's like a non-zero chance that this guy like basically does something where he has control but doesn't own shares. As the gotcha to everybody that's like, oh, he's doing this because he's greedy. And he gets to have this like heroic out where he's like, no, I did it because the company needed it. And like, look, I took 0 shares. Like I'm just here because I love it and I believe in it, kind of thing. And maybe even kick the can down the road, right? And be like, fuck, like once this blows over, then I am going to get a stock option package in 2025, right?
Yeah, and I mean that seems more of kind of the MO. Like he clearly very much cares about his public persona and image, right? Like he's been on multiple podcasts. He does a lot of interviews, like being in the public eye and talking to folks is definitely something that he cares about. I could see that. I don't know, man. Whenever I've listened to this guy talk, this is maybe an odd comparison, but like whenever I would listen to like SBF interviews before the FTX blow up, I got this like very like feel of just like weirdness, fakeness about him. And like I feel the same way about Sam Altman. Like when I listen to this guy talk on like Rogan or
Like, you
in
think he's
interviews.
maybe like a robotic alien?
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Like, yeah, you know, I don't know, man. Like
One
kind of
time he
like
was
the
talking
weird.
about like journaling on this podcast. I saw a clip of it and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, dude, oh my gosh, man, that's interesting. But hey, I mean, like a lot of the geniuses are crazy in some eyes. A lot of people would say
True.
Elon Musk is crazy, right? Um,
True.
but I don't know.
True.
I just thought this was like potentially an interesting no, just because it's like the non-consensus, but like also like right into what like Sam would do. And if you see of like how
Yeah.
he worked, like where they were almost getting rid of him, right? And then they like he pretty much left or got fired from OpenAI, and then somehow like Elon Musk called him Littlefinger because like that's the perfect name for it. Like he somehow
It is.
Littlefingers himself back into the CEO role with board
Yes.
control, and like gets rid of the coup, the people that staged the coup. He gets rid of them. So like,
Yeah.
is this guy gonna just fall into this like easy PR trap where he takes the equity, right? And then like everyone hates him and it tanks him and he can't raise money, blah 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 blah, right? Or is he playing Littlefinger 4D chess here?
Yeah, I think you're right. I forgot about that whole drama that went down where they kicked him out as CEO and then he weaseled his way back in.
Yeah. So like this guy's got something up his sleeve. He's not just going to be like, oh yeah, I get 7% of equity. Go fuck yourselves, everybody.
You got to watch out for these alien guys, man. You know, when they have those weird eyes and they start talking that way, they're sneaking on something, dude. So
Oh yeah.
I think the no is kind of interesting, man. What's the order book look like as far as the
Oh, it's got to be thinner
bids?
than butter in a depression. It's actually pretty thick.
Wow.
For only 7,000 in volume, I'm shocked.
That's got to be just a market making bot that's just stacking up the book fat.
I mean, that's fat liquidity on both sides for $30 a day in rewards.
Yeah, that looks like a market maker just slapping
that's
it
fucking
in.
awesome though, because you could just, and I mean it's still a 6 cent spread.
Yeah, and that means somebody's very bullish on that no up until about 30 cents. Which is interesting.
Yeah, that's
And
where
again,
I would take it. Like,
yeah.
I'd take this in the high 20s, low 30s.
Yeah.
All right, I got one more fun to share, and then I'll kick it back over to you. First pump.fun coin to 1 billion. I'm personally not a big meme coin guy in the sense like I'm not like, dude, okay, I need like 20% of my portfolio to be like meme coins. Like I like holding the majors. I like gaming. Gaming's just like gaming tokens. I just like them. I have conviction. I believe in the space. By the way, if you're into gaming, crypto gaming, check out eFrontier. Doing a playtest right now. I think that game could be massive. But I still I'll take a trade on a meme coin. You know what I mean? Like I traded Pepe, right? Like if I see a good chart, I'm not gonna be like, I'm not gonna trade this chart. I'm just not gonna be someone that's like, I need 10% of my 20% of my portfolio to be meme coin. I'm in and out on meme coins. But anyways,
yeah.
Moodang, dude, this little fucking hippo, dude.
Yeah.
It's at like $250 million market cap, $240 million market cap right now. It's absolutely exploded. Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know. It has some of the makings that reminds me of Pepe when it made the big run in 2023.
I agree.
Just with like the multitude of factors. Like one, it kind of just like comes out of nowhere and like captures attention. And a lot of people are talking about it. Like Walmart tweeting about the hippo, of course.
Yes.
Token.
Yeah.
So like you can even say that like Moodang, the hippo, has more cultural appeal than like Pepe the Frog, which is a little bit more like fringy. Pepe super big in crypto though, right? But like I see the same signs with the pump and everything like that. That I don't know. I could see this thing going to 1 billion, and like Pump.Fun hasn't had $1 billion coin before. I think the two things you can do is you can just take Moodang and be a degenerate. But if you're just gonna take Moodang, like I guess you just buy the token, right? Because then like you can't go to zero on the token. It is until
Yeah.
March 31st, 2025, so there's a lot to happen, but I also don't mind taking Moodang and other, because just compared to these other tokens on there, I just don't see any of them like really doing the dance. But I thought that was a fun market. Let's see what K Dean is talking about here. Free 10 cents. I wish I could copy the
He's talking about the highest grossing
movie.
Yeah, Inside Out 2.
Free 10 cents was a free 20 cents a week ago. Yeah, we've talked about this for a while. Or not for a while, sorry, a while ago when it was like in the 70s, 80s. The only thing, K Dean, is we're over here. We did our research on this and we're thinking like Moana. The only reason why others 8% is because of Moana. And, you know, depending on how it sets up this year, Moana could be a big one. Doesn't have a lot of time, though. Has 45 days. It comes out like November 15th.
Yeah.
So it would have to absolutely cook.
Yeah, Inside Out had so much time here, and the numbers actually sustained pretty well, even through like August. I haven't looked at them recently, but I was shocked at how much volume Inside Out 2 continued to
like
do.
The lead may almost be too good.
Yeah, the lead might be too good. When we were talking about it in July, like, you know, Moana 2 looked like it had like a real chance, but like the way that it's maintained momentum. I mean, dude, when I was looking at it comparatively to Deadpool in August, it still was in like 1,500 theaters, man. Like it was in a ton of theaters. Like check out, let's see how many theaters Inside Out 2 is still in.
Do I click on?
Yeah, click on that and then go to domestic daily. Okay, perfect. And then scroll all the way down. Okay, so it's finally dropped off down to 250. But in August, dude, look at this in August. It was still at like fucking 1,500.
Yeah, that's wild.
Look at that.
It was still. I mean, it was still doing like $500,000 a day, dude.
Yeah, I was going like, what theaters is this, man? Like, this is crazy. But yeah, like it did so well through August that it just like it makes the task pretty tall for Moana to beat now.
Yeah.
Deadpool. That said, you know,
100 theaters, but it's not going to be able to close like a 30 million gap.
Nah, it lost momentum too much because it was losing like week over week, like 20-30% on volume. So it just didn't have the numbers to like take it over. And I mean, it got pretty close. Look at that, man. I mean, yeah, I don't know if that's domestic gross, but it got close. It made a hell more run than people thought it would for sure. So yeah, like, I mean, unless like every little girl in America goes out to see Moana 2, yeah, it's going to be rough for Moana 2 to overtake it.
Yeah, you need some crazy El Dorado, some big players up in there. Yeah, dude, K Dean, big prediction market guy, dude. I love it.
Love it. Good to see you here, man.
BLA just followed me. I think he hated me for a while, likes me again. I'm just kidding. BLA's the man. Welcome. And then El Dorado showing up too. All the
Chads.
Homies. You got any other cool markets you want to talk about?
No, I will. I will just say we can jump into our top picks here. Cool. But the one thing I will say about the Pump.Fun token, you know, you look at all of those tokens, right? Like Daddy, like Mother, Billy. Like outside of the crypto world, nobody gives a fuck about Billy.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about Daddy, right? Like it's not happening. That's not going to 1 billion. I did the wife test on Moodang last night. I was like, hey, what do you know about Moodang? She's like, oh, the cutest hippo on the internet? Like, you mean I haven't seen fucking Moodang? And she was like actually offended that I asked her. So I like Moodang is something that has like some legs out within the regular, you know, populace outside of crypto. Who knows, man? Maybe Moodang could have some legs, right? Like when the normies, because normies for whatever reason, they're like, they love meme coins, right? People like Mog, people like, you know, Dogecoin, Pepe. I can go on and on. Maybe Moodang has. Dude, remember the days when like an Elon tweet would just like 4x the value of Dogecoin? It
Send
was
it
just
to
like
him.
send it, dude. It was the
Now it'll
funniest
move it
shit,
by like a 0.5%, if that.
if that.
Dude, but this starts at 2. Katie was asking about it. You got any of these that you like? We didn't really talk about this.
Yeah. This town hall market. What did I have on here? So yeah, border 30 plus on the like no feels like it's getting a little high, but if you could have taken it earlier today or yesterday in the 60s, that's kind of interesting. This is a formal town hall setting. He is going to rack out a lot of borders. However, border frequency at the last couple of town halls was like in the teens. It wasn't anywhere near the 30 marker, right? So like it's going to be a pretty tough one for him to hit. China 10 plus might be a little bit overvalued. Yes, he's going to be in Michigan that's like very focused on China, but going up into the mid 80s is a little high on that one. Potentially if the no swings down a little bit lower, could be interesting. Inflation 10 plus no is probably a good pickup. Probably the best pick that I liked here was trans no. He loves to talk about transgender surgeries and transgender, quote, transgender insanity in our schools, but he's never said it at a town hall. It's part of his kind of like rally riff, not really a town hall thing. That's kind of an interesting one to look at. What else do we have on here? Reagan, yes, was a little interesting if I remember correctly. I think Reagan, yes, was somewhere in the 60s. Is that correct? Is that my screen or your screen?
61%.
Yeah. Reagan, yes, could be an interesting one to take a look at here. But yeah, again, as we were talking about earlier on these streams, like there's much more frequency data out on Trump speeches and Harris speeches than there is something like a Vance Walls market, right? So as these markets have continued to go on, folks are getting smarter and smarter every time. The pricing inefficiencies don't quite exist in the same way that they did 3 weeks ago, right? So I would love to see Polymarket start to mix things up as far as the word markets offered on these. Like crypto Bitcoin's always on there, and it's just like always a 90-10, like 95-5, like black jobs. Trump said black jobs accidentally one time, has never said it since. Like Elon Musk, like some of these markets just they've been played out too many times, right? You're seeing more interest.
80%, yes, that's interesting.
Yeah, because like when he talks about vehicle manufacturing, he often talks about we want gas, electric, everything, and then he says Elon makes a great product. We love Elon, don't we? But now we want the gas too. So that's like part of that whole riff. So yeah, like a lot of this stuff is again just like matured quite a bit. So not quite as juicy of opportunities on these. So we market to like start juicing in more words. Like let's change these markets up a little bit and keep it fresh.
I love it. All right, let's move into the top picks. I'll switch over to your screen. You can share some of yours.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one to look at here. Will Kamala Harris go on SNL? So right now this is sitting in the 40s. Little bit of bids on the order book here. You can get even some things down in the low 30s. But my case on this is that, since the 90s, it's kind of been this like unwritten tradition for Democrat candidates to go on SNL, right? So if we look at, since the 90s, who our candidates have been, Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Bernie Sanders, all these guys have been on SNL leading into the election. Joe Biden didn't do it, but Joe Biden could barely make it through a 15-minute speech. Zero chance this guy was getting through an SNL live at 11 p.m. Eastern time. So I think Kamala will go on SNL. The new season of SNL starts tomorrow. And they brought in an actress to specifically like play Kamala on it. Like Kamala and the election stuff is always a big theme on, SNL. Kamala is going to want to go on there because it's going to make her appear more relatable to young voters. And it's just a great way for her to like appear more relatable and casual, just to like the average Americans, right? Like a lot of people don't have her in that kind of a light yet. So I think this will happen. I like this pickup here in the 40s. Very interesting one to take a look at. You could even throw some bids in and maybe get it a little lower. Pretty thin order book here. But yeah, good one to look at. Where is my other debate market? So we talked a little bit about this one on Tuesday, but some additional information has come out that makes me feel that this is more bullish to happen today than I did Tuesday. So there's been a lot of internal infighting in the Trump camp between Chris LaCivita and Corey Lewandowski about the direction and how Trump should be campaigning. And if you remember correctly, Corey was brought onto the campaign late last month, early this month, to try to shake things up because Trump wasn't happy with how the campaign was going at the time. You know, he was not showing great in the polls, and he needed a mix-up, right? So apparently LaCivita and Lewandowski have been sort of struggling for control in the background. And just yesterday, finally, Lewandowski has kind of been shelved a little bit, and LaCivita is, you know, for sure the guy leading the campaign, and LaCivita is the dude in charge. And LaCivita wants Trump to do the second debate with Harris, right? If you look at, you know, presidential norms, it's, you know, tradition for these guys. Yep. And if you look at, you know, presidential norms, again, it's tradition that they do, you know, 2 debates. Typically the last final one is a couple weeks before the election in October. I think there's plenty of time for this thing to happen. Any network will take this debate in a heartbeat. So don't think you need, you know, tons of time to lead into this for it to happen. But interesting one to throw some bids out on. I think this is a great underdog pick. Keep an eye on this one.
I like this one. I liked it on Tuesday.
Yeah, it got even juicier when I heard the Lewandowski LaCivita news, and I was like, man, like it just seems even more likely. And you know, as we talked about on Tuesday, like Trump has a lot to gain here. If he can come in and have like a really good disciplined performance right before the election, it could really change some folks' minds. And you know, he's just got to do a better job at not buying the Kamala Harris bait about crowd sizes and stupid shit about his rallies. Yeah, and then we talked a little bit about the speech markets already, but those were some of the ones that I also wanted to take a look at. You know, if you're looking for just like a good, safe pick on today's town hall market, great one to look at, you know, border 15 plus. Black jobs, no. There's also one for Wisconsin tomorrow that has a little bit of a better pricing. So like China 10 plus on this one is probably a good one. Being at a rally, he's going to be rambling and riffing a lot more than he is at a town hall. China is much more interesting. Black jobs, no. McDonald's, yes. All some great pickups here that feel fairly sure.
I like it.
What you got, baby? Hit us with it.
I don't got a ton of good ones today, so I'm not just going to make stuff up. I had an interesting one. I still haven't been able to get a read on it. New Diddy charges before November.
Diddy?
Yeah, there's not a lot of money on the liquidity book, so it's not that interesting of a one, but it seems like Diddy's lawyers are pushing for a speedy trial, which is like 70 days, right? Which would be by the end of the year. And if they keep pushing for a speedy trial, the prosecutors may have to spend more time just trying to, you know, get ready for the case than to add more charges. I do think the interesting thing is that like there's a lot of stuff coming out probably still, so it's not crazy to think that they put the pressure on him throw some more charges as well. BL8 says tip 3+ times at 24 cents seems too cheap.
Is that on the town hall market or the rally market? Can't remember.
Sure.
Yeah, so tips 3+. I think that's on the Wisconsin market. He always says it at least, like if he says it once, he says it twice, right? Because he always says no tax on tips, no tax on tips. And then sometimes he goes in for a third and he's like, talks about why it's so great. Sometimes he doesn't. So like it definitely is an interesting one in the 20s, but by no means is it like a guarantee. Is my take on that one.
All right. So this one, I think it was a lot more attractive like a couple of days ago, but crypto markets are rallying, right? What's interesting about this bet is that you have two outcomes because it's a market that resolves December 31st and like one or the other side has to hit, right? So it's basically, will it hit 20 cents? $2,000. Will ETH hit $2,000 or $4,000, right? If you take the $4,000 right now and it just stays above 2,000, you make 10% of your money. It's not great, right? But like, that's the play. If crypto absolutely cooks, you'll get a little bit more than a 2x on your money. Only way you get wiped out is if ETH drops below 2,000. So I thought that was a fun little crypto related one to take. It was a lot juicier a week or two ago. I love these 50-50 resolve markets. There was a Solana versus ETH one. Let's see if I can get it to pop up here. That I got in back in like May or something like that. I got the Solana side pretty cheap, down at like 42 cents.
Nice.
So it was just like a free, easy 20%, right? And then if Sol, which looks way stronger than ETH, hits an all-time by the end, you win. So I like those markets a lot. I also like on the election markets, I do think that there's stuff coming out and you're aware of this, but there's markets coming, there's news coming out that like pretty much like Arizona, North Carolina, Georgia seem to be going Trump very hard. Let me see if I can get one of them up. I don't know why the search isn't working great. Okay, yeah, so like Georgia 61, but like even Arizona could be more juicy, right? And then Pennsylvania is neck and neck. So I think you can take a fun hedge here because I think for Kamala to win, Kamala has to go through Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
So I think you can take like the no on Pennsylvania for Republicans and then the yes on Republicans for like a Arizona or like a Georgia, right? And I think that there's potentially a good amount of outcomes where Kamala wins and by winning, she wins Pennsylvania, but she loses some of those other states, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's like where if you get a Kamala win, you could hit on both sides. Downside, though, is if you think Trump's going to blow through, because also Trump, hard for him to win without going through Pennsylvania. So you can even just straight bet, I think, like Arizona, North Carolina. I think those are two like strong, solid value bets here.
Yeah, I like Arizona a lot. Going red, just if you look at like voter registration numbers, it's looking really strong. Then polling data has also been very strong in the Republican favor. I was listening to Mark Halperin this morning, and apparently there's some people in the Kamala camp that think that Pennsylvania is fucked, that Trump will win Pennsylvania. and they think that North Carolina is actually closer for them than Pennsylvania, which I thought was extremely interesting. That's just a couple of people within the Kamala camp, right? There's lots of different opinions within there. But that made me feel like much better about the idea of taking like a yes on Trump in Pennsylvania, just because I've seen that, and then some of the public polling data that's also been much tighter.
You could even go like yes Trump Arizona, yes Trump Pennsylvania, like no Trump North Carolina.
Exactly. Yeah.
And hedge it out with like Kamala wins.
Correct. And so
like Trump, yeah.
So the most interesting thing about this is if that scenario did play out where essentially Trump and Kamala flip Pennsylvania and Arizona, Trump takes Pennsylvania, Kamala takes North Carolina. Sorry, I said Arizona, wrong state. If you look at which state will be the tipping point, the tipping point state would then be Nevada, right? Because Trump takes Arizona, Trump takes PA, Trump takes Georgia. Kamala takes Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina. Nevada's the flipper, dude. So like what's Nevada at right now on tipping state market? That could be an interesting one to take a look at.
Low 4. So that's like a
that could be a Xer. Yeah, that could be like a really sneaky.
In what scenario does that hit?
So that's if Kamala takes North Carolina, Trump takes PA, then Trump would take Georgia, Arizona, Kamala takes Michigan, Wisconsin. The final piece is Nevada. So this could be like
either side can
on either side
wins Nevada wins it.
Correct.
And that'd be like a 260, 276 or 280 kind of like a close election.
Yeah, it would put it within 10 points on either side. I think if Trump wins,
Trump takes Pennsylvania, she sweeps the northern Rust Belt.
Yeah, she
takes
would.
North Carolina, loses Georgia though.
Loses Georgia.
And then he takes Arizona, and then whoever wins Nevada would win it.
Correct.
It's not the craziest scenario when you think of like the map like shifting and everything like that, and like different paths to victory. For a 25x, that's not a bad little flyer bet right there.
It's worth a little something. It's worth a look, in my opinion. I think
that a lot actually.
Yeah, I think Michigan and Wisconsin is like it's going Kamala. There's too much for Trump to overcome there for him to win. I think Pennsylvania, like the thing is like the positions on fracking that have happened with Kamala, oil is a huge deal there. And then the whole Josh Shapiro thing that went on, there's a decent amount of folks that really like Josh Shapiro, and they felt like that was a snub that she picked Walz.
So she could really be, and didn't she have that big rally a couple weeks ago that we live stream in North Carolina?
It was in North Carolina, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It might have been in or something.
I want to say it was.
Yeah. But when we say big rally, like
if their internal polling is like they're losing Pennsylvania, then that's their only other path to victory, right? Is they have to take North Carolina and then Nevada.
Correct. And that's why they're campaigning like hard. So like if you look Sunday, Kamala's appearing in Nevada again. She's finally going to the border today to start improving doing that image stuff. Yeah so yeah, like I think Georgia is again like, so the Republicans like significantly increased their ground game in Georgia, Arizona this cycle, because like they lost those states in 2020 and they want to make sure that they fucking lock them down this time. Just the pure registration numbers are going to make it a lot harder for Harris. But yeah, North Carolina is like one of these ones that's like kind of a sneaker. It could be like a Georgia was in 2020 or in Arizona, where like the demographics have shifted quite a bit in North Carolina. I lived in North Carolina for 4 or 5 years.
And raise up, take your shirt off.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, like there's a lot of just left lean. It's a very purple state, man. Like once you get out of the cities, you start to get more of the hardline conservative views,
but
but like in the
population.
cities, the population centers are
Yeah.
very, very blue. So yeah, man, I think it could be a sleeper. And again, it all depends on how, things play out over the next month, but could be a very, very interesting one at 4.1, cents here, 4%. That's a very, very nice upside to take a flyer on.
All right. So closing out here, right? This is my last one that I think is interesting. Just because, and I brought this one up before, because I think Democrats were ahead. Yeah. They've been dropping. So I took Republican at 56. So like up like 10% here. But what I think is interesting is the mispricing that's going on here, just because I think that the incumbent is the Democrat. And as you said, that's a strong advantage in Senate election winners, right?
Yeah.
But it's the fact that Ohio has gone Trump, right? Like so many times. And then there's been some drama in Ohio, right? And then Ohio's price is 93% chance for Trump, but it's a 50-50 here. I don't know. I think it's a decent bet because I've brought up the Maryland one before, where Maryland's like a 98% chance to go to Kamala, right?
Yeah.
But then only a 10% chance that Larry Hogan, former 2-term governor, takes the Republican side. So I don't know. I felt like that one was like mispriced the other way. I think this one should be like, even with the incumbency, should be like a 60% Republican kind of thing, because I just think a lot of people there could potentially go down ticket. But he is an incumbent. You have to factor that in. That's probably why it's trending much higher.
Yeah, incumbency is a big factor. But like you said, in presidential years,
kind of changed and it's gone more red.
Yeah, in presidential years, it's more typical for folks to vote straight down ticket. So if you're voting, pure, red at the top, you're going to vote red as you go down the line, right? So you're probably right. Like this feels a bit mispriced here at like 90, 50. Senate terms are also fairly long. If I remember correctly, it's like a 6-year term, right? So things have changed quite a bit from 2018 to 2024.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, I forgot to tell you too. So on that Maryland market, dude. So at some point in this week on Halperin's podcast, there was a voter that came on, a nice black gentleman, who said that he is going to vote for the Republican on the
I'm telling you, dude.
On the Senate, but he's going to vote for Kamala. Yeah, dude, I could believe it. Like he was mixing it, and then a lot of the analysts on the podcast were like, "What?" Like, I guess this is an example of how times are changing, and people kind of like could want balance in a ticket versus going straight down on all these occasions.
It's straight up the fact of like, this is how it should be priced if it was any other Republican, or even at like 5%, 95% Democrat. What people like aren't factoring in is that Larry Hogan already won as a Republican in a heavy. This is like a Bloomberg. This is like a Mayor Bloomberg kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm not talking about like winning in like a 60-40 state. I'm talking about winning in like a 95% Democrat state, right? For 2 terms, well liked. And he's going up against a no-name, non-incumbent that 1 out of 3 of Marylanders say they don't know who the person is. I just think it's like a 100% sleeper pick. BL8 says, how often does a presidential candidate win a state, but the Senate goes the other way? It's pretty rare. But it's not pretty rare. Sorry. It's like, it's a medium rare stake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if there's if there's a super popular incumbent, right, they can go the other way. But a lot more people in presidential elections are just voting straight down.
I want to say it's like 10% of like seats ever flip in a given cycle. So like, let's say the seat is red, the 10% chance that it actually goes to blue every given cycle, right? So like not super likely that incumbents
like
lose, but it does
happen at all.
Like it's like incumbents are, they have like a big advantage. And then yeah, that like at the top of the ticket, and then in general, like what America does is like every like 4 to 8 years, we just like switch out, you know. So like if it's like a red term, then we'll go blue. If it's blue, then we'll go red. And they just
Yeah.
like go back and forth between the two, because like the biggest thing that is like appealing is being like the candidate of change or the party of change, right? So like when you're the opposite, you're able to kind of like play on that part with the voters.
What's wild is that isn't it also super rare for like a new first term president to not have the House and the Senate with them? And it's looking like the odds right here are saying that it's highly likely that Republicans come in with at least 50 to 52.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's like, where do those 50-52 come from? Like, is there like a 270 win, but like Senate, like election map? I would love to see that.
Yeah, unfortunately, they don't do like nearly enough data on these Senate races, like with polling and like averages and things like that. But yeah, this is an interesting one for us to do some more research on.
This is what the 52 is shit. Sorry, reset. This is what the 52 bet is, that just that Ohio goes for the new guy.
Yeah, and that's a light red. Yeah, it's a light red. That it's
it's straight. Yeah, it's
a toss up if you're going to
toss up. Yeah.
Interesting.
But 53 is at 8%, and you get a little Hogan action. And you're at 53-47, but you never know, right? Because it could be like fucking Texas flips, right? And it's 49-51, even with the Ohio win. There's a lot of stuff that can happen.
Yeah, and Texas is one of those states that's like starting to turn a little bit more purple. It's kind of like a North Carolina or a Georgia.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of California transplants, man, that have moved over there in the past 4 years.
Hawaii going dark red. Just kidding. Cool. Hey, great stream number 2. I think this was awesome. We covered a lot of cool topics. Before we leave, we want to share. We have a Discord. Do you have the link for people to join the Discord? We have a PredictShark Discord. Idea behind the Discord is just to have people that like talking trading. We don't want BS. We don't want political ramblings, any of that kind of nonsense. And I'll share it right here. Obviously, if you're going to talk politics when you're trading, but like in the Polymarket Discord, as much as we like it, you can scroll through and it's just like 90% fluff, We kind of want a Discord where other people that like trading prediction markets and polymarkets can like sit down and just like talk trades, Dorado. Talk trade ideas, talk what you like in the market, any interesting plays you have. We'll be in there talking about our trades from time to time. So it would be awesome if you all join and talk some prediction markets with us. But that's it for the show. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll be back Tuesday next week.
Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Have a great weekend. Catch you next week.
Yeah, have a great weekend. Peace.